At 1:37 a.m., my phone buzzed. A garage door alert I didn't trigger. 2 minutes later, my husband's side of the bed was still empty. My name is Natalie Quinn, and I used to believe every late-night text, every missed call, was just part of my husband's job. That night, I learned the difference between dedication and deception. If stories about love, betrayal, and the moment truth finally surfaces speak to you, please subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your words remind me that none of us face these revelations alone. At 1:37 in the morning, my phone lit the bedroom ceiling with a notification I had never seen at that hour. I reached for it because that particular vibration meant something in our house had activated. When it should not have, the screen showed a single line from our home security app. Garage door opened. 1:37 a.m. I turned my head toward Jason's side of the bed. The sheets lay smooth and untouched. He had left around 11, saying he needed to drop tile samples at a client's house before morning because they wanted to make their selection first thing. The explanation had made sense then. Jason ran his remodeling company with the kind of dedication that often meant irregular hours. But tile samples did not require opening our garage door. At 1:37 in the morning, the security app opened on my phone. The garage had opened at 1:37. Before that, it had closed at 11:04 when Jason backed his truck out. 2 minutes later, another line showed closed at 1:39. The app logs movement only. The live camera feed showed the garage empty. Jason's parking spot vacant under the overhead light. The tile samples he claimed he needed to deliver tonight remained stacked on the workbench, where they had been since Tuesday. My hands felt cold holding the phone. If the samples were still here, what had he actually gone to deliver? I checked social media. Then I saw Sabrina Whitlock's story, posted 18 minutes earlier. At 1:19 a.m., Sabrina was the client whose kitchen and bathroom Jason had been managing for the past 2 months. She served on our HOA board and documented everything from her morning coffee to her evening wine. I had met her twice during design consultations, finding her friendly but intense, the kind who smiled while making non-requests. The story showed a view from her front porch. Late-night inspiration for tomorrow's tile decision, the caption read. In the background, partially visible, was the front quarter of a truck. That looked exactly like Jason's. Dark blue, same model, silver toolbox. Screenshot saved before the story could disappear. Then I set the phone face down and lay back against the pillows. I didn't call or text. Instead, I thought about patterns. In my work as a home design consultant, I had learned that problems rarely appeared suddenly. They build slowly until they can't be ignored. I thought about the past 2 months since Jason had started Sabrina's project. The late meetings that ran past 10 o'clock, the weekend site visits that required hours more than similar jobs. The way Sabrina's name appeared in our conversations with increasing frequency, always accompanied by Jason's explanations about her demanding timeline and her willingness to recommend his company. If he delivered exactly what she wanted, I had supported his dedication. I had encouraged him to prioritize a client who could provide referrals. I had trusted that his commitment reflected professional ambition. Now I lay in our bedroom at 1:43 in the morning, holding information that suggested my understanding had been incomplete. The garage alert still glowed on my phone. Sabrina's story remained saved in my screenshots. Jason's tile samples sat untouched downstairs, and somewhere across town, his truck had been parked near her house, 18 minutes before our garage door opened remotely. I would need more information before drawing conclusions. I would need data and timestamps that revealed the structure beneath the surface explanations. But the first piece was already in place, creating a record that could not be easily explained away. I heard Jason's truck at 2:17 a.m. The engine sound cut through my shallow half-sleep, followed by the garage door opening and closing. His footsteps came through the house, quiet and careful. I kept my eyes closed when he entered. He settled onto his side, facing away from me. Within minutes, his breathing had slowed into steady rhythm. At 6:30, I got up. When Jason came downstairs at 7:15, already dressed for work, I was at the kitchen counter with my laptop open to what looked like client work. "Morning," he said, moving past me to pour coffee into his travel mug. I waited until he turned toward the door. "How did the delivery go last night?" He paused, his hand on the doorknob. "Good. Got everything over to Sabrina's place. She wanted to see all the options laid out." "What time did you finish?" "Around 1:30, I think." He glanced back with a casual expression. "Why?" "Our garage door opened at 1:37. The notification woke me up. Something shifted in his face, barely perceptible. Oh, yeah. I forgot my phone charger. Had to come back and grab it before heading to the supply yard. His explanation sounded practiced. It might have satisfied me if I had not seen Sabrina's post. That makes sense, I said, turning back to my coffee. He left a few minutes later. I watched through the window, then walked into the garage. The tile samples were gone. Jason had taken them between coming downstairs and leaving, carrying them to his truck while I stood in the kitchen. Back inside, I checked our cards. Gas at 6:42 p.m., dinner at 8:15, then nothing, and GPS home to downtown at 7:50. Sabrina's from 8:37 to 1:44 a.m. 5 hours. Not the quick drop-off he had described. Screenshots saved to a folder labeled Home Notes. The bank transactions, the location timeline, the garage alert, Sabrina's post. Over breakfast, I thought about what the data revealed. Jason had lied about the delivery. He had spent 5 hours at Sabrina's house. He had invented a story about the phone charger to explain why our garage opened after he left her neighborhood. And he had removed the tile samples this morning to cover the fact they had never left our garage last night. 3 contradictions. Site was Sabrina's. 5 hours logged. Samples never left. Not enough yet to understand the complete picture, but enough to know that something beneath the surface required investigation. It didn't make sense, unless he'd opened the garage remotely from wherever he really was, to make it look like he'd come home. I had a client meeting at 9:30. Tablet and sample books gathered, I left at 9:15. But before starting the car, I opened my neighborhood's HOA community forum and typed Sabrina Whitlock's name into the search bar. 37 results appeared. I began scrolling backward through months of posts, looking for patterns. Looking for other people who had worked with Sabrina on home projects. Looking for complaints or concerns that might suggest this situation was not new or unique. Because if Jason had lied about last night, someone else in this neighborhood had probably received similar lies before. And if there was a pattern, I needed to find it before deciding what to do next. The HOA forum threads loaded slowly, posts dating back 18 months. Most were routine notes about landscaping and parking. Scattered among them were mentions of Sabrina Whitlock, forming a familiar shape, repeating beats with the same core. The first significant post came from 11 months ago. A contractor named Mike Russo had written about a payment dispute, professional disagreement with client SW regarding additional work scope. Project completed but final payment withheld. 3 responses appeared below. 2 offered sympathy. The third came from Karen Morrow. I had dealt with similar issues with the same client 2 years ago. Happy to discuss privately. She included her email. Another contractor had written about scope creep and communication challenges. The client had initially agreed to a defined project, then gradually requested additional work as small adjustments. When he finally insisted on written change orders, the client became difficult, questioning his professionalism and threatening negative reviews. 2 people had responded. Karen Morrow again. The other was Allison Drake, who wrote, "I believe I know who you are describing. Similar experience. Approximately every 6 to 8 months, a contractor posted about difficulties with an unnamed client in Sabrina's section." Karen Morrow had responded to 4 posts over 2 years. Allison Drake to 2. I messaged both women. "My name is Natalie Quinn. My husband Jason runs a remodeling company and is currently working on a project for Sabrina Whitlock. Would you be willing to speak with me about your experience?" Karen responded while I was driving home. "Yes, we should talk. Can you meet this afternoon?" We arranged to meet at 2:00. Allison would join us. At 1:55, I walked in and spotted 2 women sitting together. "Natalie, I am Karen. This is Allison." I bought coffee and joined them. "Thank you both for meeting me. Your husband is working on Sabrina Whitlock's kitchen remodel." "How long?" Karen asked. 2 months, I said. "And you are noticing things that concern you?" Allison said. Not a question. I showed them the screenshots. The garage alert. Sabrina's post with Jason's truck visible. The location timeline showing 5 hours. The bank records. Jason's explanation that did not match the facts. Karen and Allison exchanged a knowing look. "This is how it starts," Karen said quietly. "My ex-husband did her master bathroom 3 years ago. By the end, he was spending 4 or 5 nights a week at her house. She convinced him she could connect him with high-end clients. He started doing extra work for free. Higher-end fixtures she suddenly preferred. She would touch his arm and say how talented he was. He stopped charging her. When I finally asked him directly if something was going on, he said I was paranoid and trying to sabotage his career. Allison nodded. I did her tile work 2 years ago. Late-night texts about design. Wine offered during site visits. Suggestions that she could help my business grow. Then she started asking for modifications without paying. When I pushed back, she turned cold. Posted a negative review I had to fight to remove. Sabrina looks for married contractors, Karen said. She offers visibility and connections, creates situations where boundaries blur. Late meetings, private conversations, social media posts that make things look more significant than professional. Then she extracts value. Free work, extended timelines, access that goes way beyond normal. And if they set boundaries? I asked. She makes them the problem, Allison said. Questions their professionalism, threatens their reputation. It works because she has social influence. She is on the HOA board. When she tells her version, it carries weight. How many contractors? I asked. My ex-husband, Allison. Mike Russo, who posted last year. At least 2 others we know of. Probably more who never spoke up. The shape snapped into focus. Sabrina identified vulnerable targets, offered professional benefits, created blurred boundaries, extracted free labor and personal attention. Then used her position to damage reputations when people resisted. Jason was following the same script. I need your timelines. Documentation if you have it. Karen pulled out her phone. I kept everything. Text messages, emails, contract modifications, credit card statements showing purchases he made that she never reimbursed. Same, Allison said. I documented everything. I wanted proof I was not imagining things. We spent the next hour going through their documentation. Text exchanges where Sabrina asked for late-night visits. Change requests presented as minor but collectively adding thousands in free labor. The same beats repeated, praise and promises at the beginning, boundary violations in the middle, pressure and damage at the end. By 3:30 I had 6 pages of notes, screenshots of their documentation, names of 2 other contractors, and clear understanding that what was happening with Jason was not new or unique. We need to stop this, Allison said as we prepared to leave. She is going to keep doing it unless someone makes it too costly. The question is whether you are willing to be that person. I thought about Jason's lie this morning, the 5 hours at Sabrina's house, all the others who had been hurt before us. And I thought about my mother's voice, the plain-spoken clarity she brought to difficult situations. Silence breeds repetition, she had told me once. If you see the pattern and stay silent, you're letting the next victim suffer the same harm. I am willing, I said. We met again on Saturday morning at Karen's house. She lived in a newer development 3 miles from my neighborhood, a place Sabrina's influence had not yet reached. Allison arrived 10 minutes after me carrying a laptop bag and a folder thick with printed documents. Karen made coffee and we sat at her dining room table. The morning light came through the windows at an angle that made everything look clean and deliberate. I spent yesterday pulling everything I still had, Karen said, opening a 3-ring binder. Invoices with handwritten change orders that were never formalized. Text messages asking my ex to come over after 9 p.m. for consultations. Credit card receipts for materials he bought that she promised to reimburse but never did. Allison slid her laptop across the table. I archived every email. Watch how the tone shifts. Professional in the beginning, then personal compliments, then demands framed as suggestions, then threats when I set boundaries. I scrolled through the timeline. The progression was visible in real time. March. Can you come by Thursday to review tile samples? May. You have such an eye for detail. I trust your judgment completely. July. I need you to prioritize this. Other contractors don't understand my vision the way you do. September. Your work quality has declined. I'm considering filing a formal complaint. How many complaints did she actually file? I asked. Against me 1, Allison said. Against Karen's ex, none. Against Mike Russo, 1. Both complaints were dismissed, but the damage was done. The licensing board investigates even frivolous claims. It costs time and money and credibility. Karen leaned back in her chair. That's her leverage. She knows contractors can't afford to fight back. Even if they win, they lose. I thought about Jason. About the way he had defended Sabrina when I asked simple questions. About the referrals that had never materialized. About the 5 hours he could not explain. I want to make this public, I said. Not just to the 3 of us. To the whole neighborhood. To anyone who might work with her in the future. Allison and Karen exchanged a look. You understand what that means, Karen said carefully. Once you put this out there, Sabrina will know it came from us. She'll come after you, your husband's business, your reputation. She has influence on the HOA board. She knows people. She's already come after all of you, I said. And she's going to keep doing it until someone makes it too costly to continue. What are you proposing? Allison asked. A post on the HOA forum, anonymous at first, documenting the pattern without naming anyone specifically. Let people connect the dots themselves. Karen shook her head slowly. Anonymous won't last. She'll figure out who wrote it, probably within hours. Then I'll put my name on it, I said. The room went quiet. I could hear the hum of Karen's refrigerator in the kitchen, the distant sound of a lawnmower somewhere in the neighborhood. Your marriage? Karen said finally. Have you thought about what this will do to your marriage? I had thought about it every hour since I saw that garage door alert at 1:37 a.m. I had thought about it while Jason lied to my face, while he carried those tile samples to his truck to cover his deception, while he slept soundly after 5 hours at another woman's house. My marriage is already damaged, I said. Whether I do this or not, at least this way the damage means something. Allison nodded slowly. What do you need from us? Everything you're willing to share. Documentation, timelines, anything that establishes the pattern. I'll compile it into something coherent. Then I'll post it. When? Karen asked. Tomorrow night. That gives me today to organize everything and Sunday evening to write it. Monday morning it goes live. And Jason? Allison asked. He'll find out when everyone else does. Karen studied me for a long moment. You've changed since Thursday. You were looking for answers then. Now you know what you need to do. I can't watch this happen to someone else, I said. Not when I have the documentation to stop it. We spent the next 3 hours going through their records. I took notes on my tablet. Timestamps, dollar amounts, specific examples of boundary violations. Karen showed me the contractor review Sabrina had posted about her ex-husband. Professional at first, turned vindictive and unreliable without warning. The review had cost him 2 jobs before he got it removed. Allison pulled up archived social media posts where Sabrina had tagged contractors in photos that suggested relationships beyond professional. Casual dinners that were framed as working meetings. Weekend site visits that looked more like social calls. She documents everything, Allison said, but she controls the narrative. She posts what makes her look connected and them look invested. Then when things go wrong, she has a paper trail that suggests they were unprofessional. By noon, we had compiled enough evidence to fill a 30-page document. Patterns that repeated across 7 years. 5 contractors we could verify. Probably more who had never spoken up. This is going to get ugly, Karen said as we packed up. You know that, right? It's already ugly, I said. We're just making it visible. I drove home and found Jason in the garage. He was reorganizing his tools, a task he did when he was stressed or avoiding something. Where were you? He asked without looking up. Client meeting, I said. Ran long. He nodded and went back to his tools. The tile samples from Sabrina's project sat on the workbench, now arranged in neat rows. Evidence that had been removed and returned. I went inside and opened my laptop. I created a new document and titled it Documentation of Concerning Pattern. Then I began writing. I spent Sunday afternoon organizing the evidence into a clear chronological narrative. No emotional language, no accusations. Just facts presented in order with supporting documentation. The post was structured in 3 sections. First, an overview of the pattern. Client identifies contractor in committed relationship, offers professional advancement, creates situations that blur boundaries, extracts unpaid labor, retaliates when boundaries are set. Second, a timeline showing how the pattern repeated across multiple contractors over 7 years. Third, specific examples with dates, screenshots, and financial records. I did not name Sabrina in the post. I referred to her as a client with significant HOA influence in the Northwest sector. Anyone who had worked in that neighborhood would know exactly who I meant. At 6 p.m., I read through the document one final time. Karen and Allison had both reviewed it earlier and approved. The evidence was solid. The pattern was undeniable. And my name was attached to the bottom. Posted by Natalie Quinn, the signature line read, documentation available upon request. I uploaded the post to the HOA community forum at 6:15 p.m. Then I closed my laptop and made dinner. Jason came in from the garage at 6:30. We ate in silence. He scrolled through his phone while I watched him, wondering how long it would take for him to see the post, wondering what he would say when he did. By 8 p.m., my phone started buzzing. Messages from neighbors I barely knew. People asking if the post was real. Others saying they had heard similar stories. One message from a contractor thanking me for speaking up. At 8:42 p.m., I received a text from a number I did not recognize. This is defamation. You are spreading lies about me based on hearsay from disgruntled contractors. I have an attorney reviewing your post. I suggest you remove it immediately. I knew it was Sabrina without needing confirmation. The tone was exactly what I expected. Threatening but careful. Accusatory but vague enough to avoid admitting the post was about her. I did not respond. At 9:15 p.m., Jason looked up from his phone. His expression was different than I had seen before. Not angry exactly. Something closer to betrayal. Did you post something on the HOA forum? He asked. Yes. About Sabrina? About a pattern of behavior. I didn't use her name. He stood up from the table. You didn't need to use her name. Everyone knows who you're talking about. Do you have any idea what you've just done? I documented facts. You documented gossip from people who have grudges. Karen's ex got fired because he was spending more time at Sabrina's than on other jobs. Allison got a bad review because her work quality dropped. That's not a pattern, Natalie. That's you making connections that aren't there. I have screenshots, bank records, location data, timestamps that prove the pattern exists. You have circumstantial evidence that you're using to destroy someone's reputation, and mine along with it. Do you think clients are going to hire me now? When my wife is publicly accusing my biggest client of manipulation? Your biggest client extracted 5 hours of your time on a night you lied about. Your biggest client has been doing this to contractors for 7 years, and you're defending her. He grabbed his keys from the counter. I'm staying at the office tonight. We both need space to think about what happens next. He left through the garage. I heard his truck start and pull away. I sat at the table and opened my laptop. The post had been viewed 473 times. 82 comments. Most supportive. Some skeptical. 3 demanding I remove it and apologize. 1 comment was from Mike Russo. I can verify this pattern is accurate. I have documentation from my own experience 2 years ago. Thank you for speaking up. Another from someone named David Holt. I worked on her landscaping last year. Similar experience, late night calls, scope creep, threatened review when I pushed back. I thought I was the only one. The pattern was visible now. Other people were connecting the dots, seeing their own experiences reflected in the timeline. At 10:30 p.m., I received an email. The subject line read, Final warning. Ms. Quinn, you have 24 hours to remove your defamatory post and issue a public apology. If you do not comply, I will pursue legal action for damages to my reputation and emotional distress. I have retained counsel and am prepared to file suit. This is your only warning. Sabrina Whitlock. I forwarded the email to Karen and Allison. Then I saved a copy in my documentation folder. Then I went to bed. The request came Tuesday morning. An email with the subject line, Let's talk. Natalie, I think there has been a significant misunderstanding. I would like to meet with you in person to clear this up. Before things escalate further, can you come to my house this afternoon at 2 p.m.? I believe we can resolve this professionally. Sabrina. I showed the email to Karen over the phone. Don't go, she said immediately. She's going to try to manipulate you, record you saying something she can use against you, make you doubt yourself. I need to see her face when I present the evidence. I said, I need her to know I'm not backing down. Then record the conversation. Audio at minimum. I arrived at Sabrina's house at 1:55 p.m. The exterior was exactly as it had appeared in her social media posts. Perfectly landscaped, fresh paint, the kind of presentation that suggested control over every detail. She answered the door in casual clothes that somehow looked expensive. Her smile was warm, but her eyes were assessing. Natalie, thank you for coming. Please, come in. The interior matched the exterior. Everything coordinated, everything deliberate. We sat in her living room on furniture. That looked beautiful but felt uncomfortable. Can I get you something to drink? She asked. No, thank you. I'll get right to the point then. Your post has caused significant damage to my reputation. People I've known for years are questioning my integrity. Contractors are canceling projects. My position on the HOA board is being challenged. All because of allegations that are simply not true. They're documented facts, I said. Documented by people with grudges. But you're missing the real story, Natalie. You think Jason was manipulated? That I controlled him somehow? That's not what happened. Something in her tone had shifted. Less defensive? More deliberate. Then what did happen? I asked. She leaned back in her chair, watching me. Jason and I have been involved for 2 months. Not professionally, personally. He's been coming here because he wants to, not because I pressured him. Because we have something real. The words landed, but I kept my expression neutral. I had suspected emotional entanglement. I had not allowed myself to fully consider this. You're lying, I said. Am I? She picked up her phone and swiped through photos. Then she turned the screen toward me. Jason in her kitchen. Not working. Not consulting. Just standing there with a glass of wine, smiling at the camera. In a way, I had not seen him smile at home in months. She swiped again. Another photo. Jason on her couch. Evening light through the windows. His hand reaching toward the camera as if to push it away playfully. These aren't work consultations, she said quietly. These are moments between two people who care about each other. My hands felt cold. The same physical sensation I had felt that first night at 1:37 a.m. Recognition before full understanding. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I want you to understand what you're actually exposing. Not manipulation. Not a pattern of professional misconduct. A relationship. One that Jason chose. One he's been honest about. With me anyway. He lied to me because he knew you wouldn't understand. That you'd make it about control or victimization instead of accepting that sometimes people outgrow their marriages. That they find connection elsewhere. She set her phone down and looked at me with something that might have been pity. Or might have been satisfaction. He was planning to tell you, she said. After the kitchen project finished, he wanted to handle it carefully. But then you went digging, posted that ridiculous pattern theory, turned our relationship into some kind of predatory scheme. The other contractors, I said, Karen's ex-husband, Allison, Mike Russo, were those relationships too? Some were, some weren't. Does it matter? Consenting adults making choices? Not everything is manipulation, Natalie. Sometimes people just want what they want. I thought about the 5 hours Jason had spent here, the 63 phone calls, the photos in his cloud storage showing her standing close. All of it reframed through this new information. You're telling me this to hurt me, I said. I'm telling you this so you'll remove the post. So you'll stop pretending this is about protecting people when really it's about punishing me for taking something you think belongs to you. Jason made vows to me. Jason is unhappy. Has been for a while. I didn't create that. I just offered him something different. Something better. She stood and walked to the window, the same movement she had made in my imagined version of this conversation. But the script had changed. The truth underneath was uglier than I had prepared for. So what happens now? I asked. She turned to face me. You take down the post. You apologize publicly for the damage you've caused. And Jason and I continue what we've started without your interference. And if I don't, then you look like exactly what you are. A bitter wife who couldn't accept that her marriage was over. Who invented a manipulation narrative to avoid facing the truth? I stood and picked up my bag. My hands were steady, but something inside me had fractured. Not broken cleanly. Fractured in a way that would take time to understand the full extent of damage. I'm not taking down the post, I said. Then you're a fool. Maybe. But the documentation stands. Whether it's manipulation or affair or both, the pattern of boundary violations is real. The unpaid work is real. The other contractors are real. Whatever you and Jason have doesn't erase that. I walked toward the door. She did not try to stop me. He's not coming back to you, she said as I reached for the handle. I know, I said, and I did know. Standing in her perfect house with her perfect presentation, and her photos of my husband smiling in ways he had stopped smiling at home, I knew the marriage was over. That truth and exposure would not bring him back. That the only thing left was deciding how to carry the knowledge forward. I drove home with my hands gripping the steering wheel. The sky was gray. Rain starting to fall in light drops that blurred the windshield. The garage door was closed when I arrived. The security app showed no alerts. The house was empty and would stay empty. I sat in my car for a long time, watching rain pattern the glass, and understood that some truths did not restore anything. They just made the ending visible. The email from Sabrina's attorney arrived Thursday morning. A cease and desist letter demanding I remove the HOA forum post within 48 hours, or face legal action for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I forwarded it to Karen and Allison. Karen called within 10 minutes. Let her try, she said. Truth is an absolute defense, and you have documentation. By Friday afternoon, 3 more contractors had posted their own experiences on the forum, not in response to the legal threat, but because the first post had given them permission to speak. The pattern was no longer just my observation. It was corroborated testimony from multiple sources across 7 years. Sabrina's attorney sent a second email, this one more measured, suggesting mediation instead of litigation. The tone had shifted from threat to negotiation. I did not respond to either message. The HOA board scheduled an emergency meeting for the following Tuesday. I received a formal notice requesting my attendance. Sabrina received the same notice. So did Karen, Allison, and Mike Russo. On Saturday, Jason called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again Sunday morning. I answered on the 4th ring. Natalie. Jason, we need to talk. About what Sabrina told you. About what's been happening. I already know what's been happening, I said. You've been having an affair. For 2 months. She showed me photos. There's nothing left to clarify. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It just happened. We connected and I didn't know how to stop it. Without losing everything I'd built with the project. You mean the project where you were doing free work in exchange for referrals that never came? He was quiet for a moment. It was more complicated than that. It really wasn't. She identified what you needed to hear. She gave you attention and validation. She made you feel important. And you chose that over our marriage. That's not complicated. That's just what happened. I know I hurt you. I know I lied. But taking it public, posting about it on the forum, that's not fair. That's revenge. I didn't post about the affair, I said. I posted about a pattern of professional misconduct. The affair is separate. That's between you and me and whatever's left of our marriage. What is left? I looked out the kitchen window at the street. Rain had started again, light and steady. I don't know yet. But I know I can't trust you. And I know I'm not interested in pretending this didn't happen. So you can feel better about your choices. So what do we do? You figure out where you're living. I'll figure out what comes next. When I'm ready to talk about it, I'll let you know. I ended the call before he could respond. Tuesday's HOA meeting lasted 3 hours. Sabrina attended with her attorney. She sat composed and professional while contractors presented documentation. She denied misconduct. She characterized the relationships as consensual and the complaints as retaliation from people who had failed to meet their obligations. Her attorney argued that the forum post violated community guidelines and demanded its removal. The board president listened to all testimony, then called for a closed session to deliberate. The meeting resumed 40 minutes later. Based on the evidence presented and the number of similar complaints, we have determined that Ms. Whitlock's conduct violated our community standards regarding professional relationships between residents and service providers. We are requesting her resignation from the board effective immediately. Additionally, we will be updating our contractor guidelines to prevent similar situations in the future. Sabrina stood. Her expression was controlled, but something in her posture had collapsed. She left without speaking. I drove home in the dark. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet, reflecting streetlights in fractured patterns. Jason's truck was not in the driveway. The house was dark and quiet. I turned on lights as I moved through each room, making the space feel occupied even though I was alone. My phone showed 7 missed calls, 3 from neighbors expressing support, 2 from contractors thanking me for speaking up, 1 from a reporter asking for an interview, 1 from Jason. I deleted the voicemail without listening to it. The forum post had been viewed over 1,000 times. The comments section had grown to 300 replies. Some supportive, some critical, some simply documenting similar experiences with other clients in other neighborhoods. The pattern was visible now. Not just Sabrina's pattern, but the broader structure that allowed it to repeat. The professional dynamics that blurred boundaries. The social influence that protected certain people. The silence that enabled harm to continue unchecked. I had exposed one instance of a larger problem. That exposure had cost me my marriage and parts of my reputation, and the comfortable fiction that problems resolve themselves if you just wait patiently. But it had also stopped the pattern from continuing. At least here. At least now. I closed my laptop and sat in the quiet house. The garage door was closed. The security app showed no alerts. No unexpected notifications. No trucks in backgrounds of photos. No lies waiting to be uncovered. Just the truth, visible and documented and impossible to unsee. The truth had already done what it came to do. 4 months later, I accepted a design consultation for a kitchen renovation in a neighborhood 30 minutes from mine. The client was a woman in her 50s who had clear ideas about what she wanted and respected boundaries about meeting times and communication methods. I finished the consultation in 90 minutes, provided a detailed proposal, and left with a signed contract. Professional, clean, uncomplicated. My business had recovered slowly. Some clients had been uncomfortable with the forum post and the publicity around it. They wanted design consultants who stayed quietly in the background of their projects. Others had sought me out specifically because of it. They appreciated someone who set clear boundaries and didn't tolerate manipulation. The work was steadier now than it had been before. Different clients but sustainable income? I stopped at a coffee shop on the way home. A woman I vaguely recognized from the HOA meetings nodded at me from across the room. Not friendly exactly, but acknowledgement. A small shift in how people looked at me now, less like someone who had caused problems and more like someone who had named problems that already existed. Karen and Allison had organized a quarterly meeting for contractors who wanted to discuss professional boundary issues. 15 people attended the first one, 23 at the second. The meetings were informal but helpful, a space to share experiences and strategies without judgment. I attended when I could. Mostly I listened. Occasionally, I shared what I had learned about documentation and evidence and the difference between exposure and revenge. Jason's business had declined significantly. 3 major clients had left after the HOA meeting. 2 others had completed existing projects but not returned for new work. He had laid off his assistant and was working alone again, taking smaller jobs in neighborhoods where his name didn't carry associations. He had sent 2 emails over the past 4 months. The first apologizing, the second asking if we could talk about divorce proceedings. I had responded to the second with the name of my attorney. The conversation would happen eventually, but through proper channels with clear documentation. Sabrina had moved in February. Her house sold quickly. I heard through neighborhood gossip that she had relocated to a city 2 hours north, far enough that her reputation here wouldn't follow. Close enough that she could rebuild using similar strategies in new communities. The forum post was still live, but I rarely checked it anymore. The comments had tapered off. The initial urgency had faded into archived documentation, a record that would exist for anyone who needed it but no longer dominated daily conversation. On a Wednesday morning in late April, I woke at 6:30 and made coffee. The house was quiet. Sunlight came through the kitchen windows at an angle that made everything look clean and possible. I opened my phone and navigated to the home security app. The notification history showed months of routine entries. Garage door opened at normal times, closed at expected intervals. No alerts at 1:37 a.m. No unexplained activity. I scrolled to the settings menu and found the option to delete notification history. My finger hovered over the button for a moment. Then I pressed it. The log cleared. Months of documented evidence erased in a single action. Not because I had forgotten, but because I no longer needed proof of what had happened. I knew the truth. The truth was documented in legal filings and HOA records and contractor testimonies. I didn't need to carry it in my phone anymore. I deleted the entire app. The security system would still function, but I wouldn't receive notifications, wouldn't check logs, wouldn't monitor activity. The garage door would open and close according to my schedule and no one else's. I finished my coffee and gathered my things for a morning client meeting. The house was clean. The calendar was full. The work was steady. In the driveway, I noticed the motion sensor light over the garage had burned out. I made a note to replace it this weekend. A small task. Manageable. Normal. I backed out of the driveway and drove toward my appointment. In the rearview mirror, the house looked smaller, less weighted with meaning. Just a house at the end of a street in a neighborhood where people lived their complicated lives in mostly ordinary ways. This time, the garage door stayed closed. Not a lie, not a cover, just peace. I glanced back once before turning the corner. Silent, ordinary, finally still. And for the first time in months, that silence didn't mean loss or absence or the space where trust used to be. It meant peace.